Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's Liliana Talks. With me in the studio, Kristóf Veres, expert at Warsaw Institute and also a researcher at Danube Institute in Budapest. Hello.
Thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you very much for coming to our studio in Warsaw. I hope the journey was smooth and the weather did not shock you here.
Well, there was a little bit of turbulence on the plane, but
All right.
nothing that I can't handle, I think.
All right. Yes, it's actually a good thing that you just mentioned because Kristóf just came back from Ukraine. Can you tell us something? How is the situation right now in Ukraine? Actually, how you got there? Did you take a train? So how does it look like right now?
Well, I took the train from Budapest. There is no direct train.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take one train to the Hungarian-Ukrainian border and then cross the border, and then you board the sleeper train. The complete journey is between 24 and 25 hours now.
All right.
But at least it's very easy to cross the border there because there is no traffic on the Hungarian-Ukrainian border, at least not the kind of traffic that you expect on the Polish-Ukrainian border.
Okay. So it's quite a demanding journey, I would say, still. And how is the situation in Ukraine right now? Did it change? Are there still bombings? How does it look like?
Well, first of all, there was a very long lull in Russian bombings, especially noticeable in the capital city, Kyiv. It lasted almost four months. Mm-hmm. So Kyiv residents could get long weeks of good night's sleeps. But just the evening when I was leaving, which is, I guess, last Friday, the Russians launched again a bombardment with attack with the Iranian-made kamikaze drones on the Ukrainian capital. Obviously, they are targeting again the energy infrastructure like last winter. We'll see if they will succeed. But now winter has come for Ukraine again.
Mm-hmm. But are they trying to bomb the, let's say, crucial infrastructure elements, or they're just bombing whatever there is on the horizon?
Well, the Russians claim that they only bomb infrastructure which is related to the Ukrainian war effort. That's obviously not true. Mm-hmm. During this latest drone campaign that I just mentioned, they managed to hit a kindergarten. Right. So I don't know. Maybe they had some Hamas tunnels underneath.
Well, yes. And tell me, so the situation is not very good in Ukraine, as you mentioned. The winter has come there again. But how is the, let's say, public opinion of the average citizen of Ukraine? What do they feel? How they are thinking about the future? What are the prospects, the expectations, and how do they also feel about the help, the aid that was flowing from Europe, from US, from Japan to Ukraine?
Well, first of all, the overwhelming majority of Ukrainians still want to continue the fight until complete victory. In their definition, complete victory is recapturing every territory which is inside the internationally recognized borders of Ukraine. At the same time, they feel that there are problems. Problem number one, the aid held up in the United States. Problem number two, the European Union aid held up here in Europe. Both of the aid packages are going to run out end of this year. And then what?
So this is one thing. And the other are also the elections that are coming to US. Do you think the, let's say, possible change of power can also change something towards the help to Ukraine? Or do you think that there still will be some kind of a majority that will support it?
Right now, in the United States, there is still very strong support in both chambers of Congress as well in the White House. for continued aid packages for Ukraine. The problem is that this aid got tangled up in American domestic politics. The White House wants to link it to aid to Israel, while the House of Representatives, they want to do it separately. The House of Representatives is led by a Republican majority right now, and the newly elected Speaker, he wants to link the aid to Ukraine to reforms and changes of policies at the United States southern border, because there's a border crisis going on. So all this aid is right now tangled up into American domestic political fighting. But if we look at the big picture, sooner or later, some kind of aid package is bound to be passed. I'm just not convinced that they are going to get the amount of money that the White House is asking for right now, which is more than $60 billion.
All right. Yeah, that's a big sum of money, I would say. And what about Europe? What about the EU? What's the problem here? Why the help, the aid is not flowing, let's say, in the same pace as it used to?
Well, right now, the next tranche of the European aid package, which is $50 billion, is held up by the Hungarian government, and hopefully there is going to be a European consensus on the issue during the next European summit, which I believe is going to be in 2 or 3 weeks in December.
All right, but don't you think that some, let's say, bigger economies in the EU will somehow try to maybe convince Ukraine to stop the fight at a certain moment? Is it even a possible, I don't know, case? Is it the thing that is being discussed in Ukraine that, I don't know, Germany or France will say, guys, maybe we should stop it, it's too long, maybe we should somehow resolve the issue, or it's not something that is being discussed in Ukraine?
Well, the people that I talk to in Ukraine, they are aware of the fact that the West is kind of slowly demanding something. We've sent all these weapons, all this financial aid, and unfortunately, Western policymakers want to see concrete achievements on the battlefield. The problem is it doesn't always work like that. Sometimes that kind of military achievements are hard to make. It takes time, or they are not as easily achievable as we've seen last year in the Kharkiv counteroffensive or in the Kherson region later. Exactly, a little bit more than a year ago.
So what would be the response of Ukraine if this kind of demands will, let's say, appear? Because right now these are just the talks, some gossips. But what if, I don't know, one of the big powers in the EU will say that, we want something, let's say, tangible? Then what do you think should be the response of Ukraine? What would be the response of Ukraine?
You mean if Ukraine was kind of forced at the negotiating table?
Exactly.
Well, that's something that in Ukraine at this point is unimaginable, and there is no politician who would be able to say that because there is zero public support for that. Maybe it will change. Maybe if another year passes without significant achievements at the battlefield, or I'm talking about the kind of achievements that the Western allies are looking for. We'll see. What's sure that the West needs to have a clear strategy towards Ukraine. What's NATO doing exactly? Because right now, this is it the policy of NATO to help Ukraine win? Because right now, this is not enough, or we are saying that this is too expensive, or it's not in our interest to pursue this war until complete Ukrainian victory, then the West should tell the Ukrainians that, okay, now you have to sit down and negotiate. But this in-between of sending just enough weapons and aid so that the Ukrainians don't lose, but at the same time not sending enough for them to win, it doesn't make any sense. There has to be a strategic discussion about what the West is doing. And it has to happen right now.
All right, and tell me, because we know that still the flow of the refugees is quite big. Yeah, so a lot of people are leaving Ukraine, but also at the same time, still people are coming back to Ukraine. So how is the workforce situation right now in Ukraine? Is it bad? Is it good? We know that a lot of young people left, a lot of students, a lot of women, but how does it look like right now?
Well, funnily, there's a labor shortage right now in Ukraine. At the beginning of the war, because since the economy collapsed, there was a huge unemployment problem. But with now all of these people leaving, at the same time, the Ukrainian economy adjusting to war, and with many men, we are talking more than 1 million people drafted into the Ukrainian armed forces, there is a huge labor shortage. Right now, policymakers are, there's a discussion in Ukraine about how they could not just get all the refugees to return to Ukraine once the war ends, not before, but once the war ends, but also how to jumpstart some kind of labor migration into Ukraine to replenish the depleted workforce.
All right. And what are the, let's say, proposals on how to do it?
The proposals are still very vague. The most important competitive advantage before the war of Ukraine was cheap labor. Obviously, they don't have that anymore because everyone left. Now they have a labor shortage. What I believe they could really tap into is all the knowledge that they gathered during this bloody war, and build up some kind of military-industrial complex based on their completely unique knowledge of fighting and their complete unique knowledge of all these weapon systems.
All right, and the very last thing that I would like to discuss with you, because you have the first, let's say, knowledge, like just coming from Ukraine. What is the situation of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church right now?
The Ukrainian Orthodox Church of the Moscow Patriarchate is their situation is a very contentious issue in Ukraine right now. Historically, they were an affiliate of the Russian Orthodox Church, which we of course know is run by the FSB and basically is just one of Putin's many foreign policy tools. So the Ukrainian Orthodox Church of the Moscow Patriarchate claims to have cut all ties with the Russian Orthodox Church, but at the same time, a large segment of an overwhelming majority of Ukrainian society believes that they are still somehow working for the Russians by spreading Russian propaganda inside Ukraine. I have to highlight that there were a number of criminal investigations from priests since the launch of the full-scale invasion, because they were directing artillery fire for the Russians.
No way.
Oh yes, they were welcoming Russian invaders. This is, of course, doesn't mean that all priests are working for the Russians, because we are talking about thousands of people. However, these links of this church with the, or past links of this church with the Russian church is raises national security concerns in Ukraine. And because of this, after very long deliberation, the Verkhovna Rada just passed a legislation in first reading. So it's not a law yet. Now it goes to committees. There are 1,500 amendments to it to this point. So it's still going to take months. That would limit the operation of this church. The proposed law says that no church operating inside Ukraine can have a connection, established connection with a center of influence inside an aggressor country. So Russia is not named, this church is not named. So if this law is adopted and this church can prove that it doesn't have any more ties to Russia anymore, then it's fine. However, it's a very contentious issue. In Ukraine, many people, according to the polls in Ukraine, many people would just welcome a blanket ban of this religious organization, with opposition parties in the Ukrainian parliament asking for harsher bans, while at the same time Russian propaganda and disinformation is capitalizing on this issue. They are saying that that the Zelensky government is banning real or canonical Orthodoxy, and the other independent Orthodox Church of Ukraine is just a nationalist project that is funded by the Americans, and it was only set up because the Americans asked for it. So it's a very contentious issue, and the passage of this law even made its way into American political debate, because during the previous Republican primary debate, one of the Republican presidential candidates,
you wanted to mention, this Republican.
Vivek Ramaswamy, he said that Zelensky is basically banning a whole Christian denomination in Ukraine.
All right.
So even though it seems like a specifically Ukrainian problem or a specifically Ukrainian and Russian problem, sometimes Russian disinformation regarding these matters create waves in America too.
No, I would say the Russian disinformation is quite effective, and it's everywhere. It's even in Poland, and in Poland, I would say we are quite concerned, and let's say the society is quite also conscious about it. But still, it is present here. It is present, and it probably would be present. Thank you very much, Kristóf, for our extremely interesting conversation. Thank you very much for finding the time to come to us. And I'm also wishing you a nice stay in Poland.
Well, thank you very much. And I was very happy that I could be here today.
Thank you.